As you can imagine, mainly Sixers and Flyers talk today, other than talking about the greatest hitter in the history of baseball, Brandon Marsh, now hitting .353. Phillies took 2 of 3 over the weekend over the Rockies, so they continue to win baseball games. And that's the only team we have to watch now, because the Sixers and Flyers were both swept in their respective playoff series. Flyers on Saturday, Sixers on Sunday. And Johnny, before we get back to our calls and our texts, because there's been a lot of reaction today, usually after a playoff series, you learn something. Or after a playoff series, you go, all right, what can they do to build off of that? And that's the major difference between these two teams right now. The Flyers, you at least can have a positive conversation.
A lot of it.
And say, all right, yeah, that sucked, but man, they did a lot of things right. They're still rebuilding, right? Like nobody said rebuild over. This is just kind of the next step to making this rebuild into hopefully being a contending team year in and year out. Whereas the Sixers, I'm at a loss, especially when we read the article from Tim Bontemps, who's basically saying, yeah, it's going to be really freaking hard to move on from Embiid and George. Because I don't know how many people want those contracts at that age. And, of course, the injury histories of both players. Even though Paul George was great this playoffs, his injury history, too.
Who wants him? Like, who wants him?
That's the scary thing.
That is. And the fact that Joel Embiid's contract extension, the ridiculous contract extension, kicks in this year. Now it just kicks in. It's horrendous. I mean, it's horrendous.
Yeah.
We're in a bad spot.
And spare me the 21st overall pick. Like, what is that going to do for you this year? Unless you're using it to acquire a player via trade. What are we doing? I don't have something to turn to with the Sixers because it is so much harder. Like last year, Dave Dombrowski, as much as I hated him in October and November, I was still thinking, all right, they can do stuff this offseason because there's no cap. You just
sure.
buy another player. Just go, Or you're disappointed with one player? All right, just go out there and buy another one. Just go pay for a free agent. It's not that hard. Basketball, it is. And so there's nothing right now that I can turn to. Like I was talking to Austin, who's our YouTube producer. Well, there's Golden State. You could train the Golden State. Then you get the Jimmy Butler contract. Like, think about that for a second. We're talking about getting contracts just to move off of another guy. And then Jimmy Butler's done after a year.
Jimmy Butler's not coming here.
No, I mean Jimmy
Butler's going to be
you're not trading for Jimmy Butler.
No, I understand.
You're trading for Jimmy Butler's contract,
and then you'd have to release him?
And then we're doing it all over again. We're doing the process all over.
Yeah, we're not doing that. Not doing that. We see what it got us. It's good to see it.
You get 1 year at Jimmy Butler, then that spot completely opens up, and then you have a max contract slot for the free agency after the 26-27 season.
Does anybody think Steve Kerr wants Joel Embiid?
They're screwed either way.
Yeah, I don't know if Steve Kerr still coaching him.
Yeah, he did. He signed 2-year extension.
Did he? Okay.
2-year extension. You think Steve Kerr wants it? Yeah, Joel Embiid. That's what's going to fix it.
I don't know. They're in a weird spot because you can't really move Steph because of who Steph is, but the pieces around him aren't going to work at a championship level anymore. So maybe you try and just shoot the gap.
Look, there's teams all the time. Look, and it might be a 5-team deal. Like there's these things.
Things happen. I didn't think about it.
But I can't look at that. I don't know what teams want. In May, I don't know who wants Joel Embiid. Who believes they are one injured big man away from winning a championship, right? Or what team? And look, the Paul George, there might actually be a suitor for Paul George because he played into that. And again, I don't want to celebrate the fact that a guy played his trade value up, but there might be a team that says, man, we could use that. We saw what he did with VJ Edgecombe, and the guy was the legs looked fresh because he got a 25-game suspension. He's shooting threes. Like there might be a team out there that could talk themselves into Paul George, but still.
No, I could see a West Coast team. I actually think it's easier to move Paul George than it is to move Embiid.
It is. No, it absolutely is.
Because Embiid, you just don't know. I mean, you don't.
Yeah.
It's bad.
All right, let's get to some more reaction. Let's go to Larry in PA, who wants to talk about Paul George. What's up, Larry? Hello, Larry.
Lawrence.
All right, let's put Larry on hold. Let's go to our man T-Love. What's up, T-Love?
Hey, what's up, fellas? Wow. I want to say something, and I listen to you guys every day. I know I'm going to run out of time because my point is I want to talk about the Sixers, but I got to talk about talk radio. I was introduced to this medium over 40 years ago, and I couldn't believe that there was actually a place where I could voice my opinion, to other people and have it heard and listen to other people's opinions, right? Mm-hmm. And I thought that was amazing. And right now, I think you guys are kind of taking that away from me and my love for this genre. I don't get me wrong. I love to hear you guys, but I think you guys talk a little too much. I would like to hear more involvement from the fans. Maybe you could take more phone calls.
Okay.
T-Love, you're on right now. You're on the air right now with a chance to give your opinion.
Go for it, man.
Give your opinion.
Okay. That was one of them. Okay. Now, I want to get to my sports topic. I think you guys are being way too hard on Tyrese Maxey.
Oh, boy.
I think where you have to go is you have to look at this organization. From top to bottom, everybody who put this roster together should be fired. Daryl Morey, Elton Brand, and I don't believe in this coach. I think the reason you beat the Celtics is because their coach couldn't figure it out, okay? And which I applaud. I applaud the Sixers for going in and taking advantage of the coach's mistakes because they could have easily won this game if they had attacked the middle. The Sixers cannot defend the middle. They lost to the New York Knicks. If you thought they were going to win against the Knicks, everybody's delusional. I thought that they would come with more guts. I thought they would have more guts. And that's the shocking thing to me.
Yeah, they didn't show up yesterday, dude. They appeared at the arena. That's the most effort they put out there yesterday.
Yeah, you can't. You're never going to win any kind of. You're not going to get close to smelling a chip with Joel Embiid, and that's just how it is. The guy, when he's in and out of the lineup, he yo-yos in and out of the, and you got to remove him from Tyrese Maxey's orbit because Tyrese Maxey looks up to the guy too much.
That's my one thing, T-Love, and thanks for the call. Hope I gave you enough time. Tyrese Maxey is a max contract player. We got to stop handling him with kids' gloves because here's the deal. All right, you want Embiid out of the orbit or whatever he said.
He's about to be 26.
That's what I'm saying.
Tyrese.
Like it's like what we do with the Phillies with the daycare, right? And Brandon Marsh, God bless you, because you're hitting 353 this year. But the way we handle Brandon Marsh, Bryson Stott, and Alec Bohm, as recent as last year, as if they were like these young children, it's like, well, hold on a second. These guys are entering what is supposed to be the prime of their career. Tyrese Maxey, we still look at him as baby Max. We still look at him as little Tyrese. He is a max contract player, so we have to hold him to a certain standard. Do you think his game might be impacted by Joel Embiid? You can have that opinion. I'm not saying you can't have that opinion, but Joel Embiid wasn't there game 2. He wasn't. How many times has Joel Embiid not been there?
By the way, it was the most competitive game was that game.
Okay. I've seen Tyrese Maxey have the opportunity to be the guy. And some nights he does, some nights he doesn't.
Game 3, he did not get to the foul line. Game 3, he didn't get to the foul line. Tyrese Maxey. Like, it's inexcusable.
And that was without
it's inexcusable.
OG Anunoby wasn't on the court.
Are you
for the
kidding
Knicks.
me? Are you kidding me? That's effort. That's effort. Now, I'm not expecting him to be a big rebounder. It's not his game. Not his game. But you realize that in Game 6 against the in Game 7 against the Celtics, he had 11 rebounds. He had 11. In 4 games against the Knicks, he had 10.
I'm not going to hold him to that.
Well, that's 1-4. Dude, against the Celtics, Game 5, 10 rebounds. Game 7, 11 rebounds.
I don't think he all of a sudden decided he didn't want to.
Yeah, I think that's
okay. So
Jalen Brunson had 11 rebounds.
He had he had 5. He had 5. He had 5 in Game 7 against Celtics. 11 in Game 7, and then he has.
Yeah, you know 10, why? Because they have slow ass white guards that aren't getting to.
He has 10 an entire series, and then he doesn't get to the foul line.
Yeah, we could talk about the foul line.
He doesn't get to the foul line You're Tyrese Maxey, and you're not driving the lane.
Don't forget, the Celtics shoot 3 after 3 after 3, so long rebounds happen. And
which is easier for guards to go get.
And you just don't. You don't.
I don't think it was a lack of want for him to not have rebounds against the Knicks, but the not attacking the basket, especially game 1 or game 2 when you had all those guys in foul trouble. I didn't get it. I mean, and look,
so what did he do?
Guys, I love Tyrese Maxey.
What did he do in the Knicks series?
He was a guy. That's not good. Because he's not paid to be a guy. He's paid to be the guy or one of the guys.
As a 3-point shooter against the Knicks, okay? 0 for 3 game 1. Three times. 1 for 6 game 2. That's 1 for 9. Then he was 1 for 3. That's 2 for 12. Then he was 1 for 7 yesterday. So he was 3 for 19 from 3 in the series. That's pathetic.
Yeah, he was a guy this series.
That's not even a guy. That's not even a guy. That's terrible. That's terrible.
Yeah, he came up small this series.
He had 19.
But people are afraid to be critical. I found the poll. 42% of people voted they find it hard to criticize Tyrese Maxey. 42% in this city where we criticize everybody. And I like that about us because we hold players to certain standards. For some reason, Tyrese Maxey doesn't. And maybe it is look, I get it. Like T Love saying the Embiid thing. All right, so trade Joel Embiid. Nobody's saying not to do that. You trade Joel Embiid, it's now Tyrese Maxey's team. I just don't think my basketball evaluation, all right, everybody knows me as Andy Hoops. My basketball evaluation is that he's not going to carry a basketball team.
He had last 4 games of the Celtics series. Tyrese had 23 assists. The entire Knicks series, he had 19. I mean,
guys got to make their shots.
I mean, it's just is the turnovers. The turnovers.
Oh, they were bad.
The first 2 games against the Knicks, 10.
Yeah, but he was like 46-9 assists to turnover in that Celtics series. Like he had a terrible series,
a bad series.
Yeah. He did. I don't want to take this too far of like what Maxey can be because of one bad series, but he deserves to be ripped for that.
Look, ultimately it starts with who's constructing the roster, and the roster's got issues. And that's why it's going to be an interesting decision made by Sixers ownership if whether or not they keep Daryl Morey. I mean, that's we're talking about Daryl Morey, we're talking about Dave Dombrowski.
They got to be moving on. And another thing too, Jalen Hurts, who gets completely attacked in this town, overly critiqued, who is already led us to a championship, got us within a minute and a half of another one, who has accomplished so much more in big games, is a year and 4 months older than Tyrese Maxey.
There's a lot of factors to go into that conversation to compare Hurts to Maxey.
No, what I'm saying to you is we don't say kid with Jalen Hurts.
No, we look at
we look at Jalen Hurts with the scrutiny of everything that Jalen Hurts does is scrutinized to a maximum degree.
Yeah, he's the quarterback of the Eagles. If he was 7 years old, he'd be scrutinized like that.
But we don't look at him as young. We look at Tyrese Maxey as a kid.
Yeah.
He's a kid. He's young. He's going to grow into it. What a great start. Nobody says that about Jalen Hurts ever. Jalen Hurts gets no grace for his age. None.
Again, he's the quarterback of the Eagles. It's a very different position than being the second best player on the Sixers.
Right, let's get to some more reaction before T Love gets mad at us again. Let's go to Ant-Man in Delco. What's up, Ant-Man?
What's going on? I'm gonna just keep it simple. This is what happens, and you see it with C.J. McCollum, Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, Trae Young. When your best player or one of your best players are undersized guard, he ran into an elite defender in Mikal Bridges. They didn't sub him. They didn't sub him out. So if everybody want to tell me, I'm not just resolving Maxey about what he said at the press conference. I'm just talking about logic. If you are undersized guard, you can't do what Kobe and the 6'5", 6'6" guys do to slow your game down to get back where it posts up.
Yeah, he also can't be the preliminary ball handler. They don't have a point guard. They haven't had a point guard since what? Andre Miller?
You're right. So here's the thing though, and here's the thing. So you got to take the good with the bad with Maxey. He's an undersized guard, so not getting to the foul line, that takes a lot of energy. We have to say this. Give credit to the Knicks having an elite defender they can put on Maxey. Maxey wasn't going to cook Bridges through the whole series. That's where PG having a bench and Embiid needed to come in to negate that for this series. If we get to Detroit don't have a Mikal Bridges.
Right.
So then that's when Maxey can take over. We putting this all on Maxey, and I don't think it got nothing to do with age or nothing. It's him being an undersized guard. You cannot do anything if you got an undersized guard going up against an elite, taller defender.
And that's just the point I've been making for 2 years now. Look, the Embiid thing, I get it. The Embiid thing, if you want to trade him, whatever. But the build around Maxey, it's not going to work.
Oh, wait a minute. Did Maxey? So you're giving? I just want to make sure. Are you giving Maxey a pass for this series?
No. What I'm saying is, John, is some series are built on matchups. Maxey, this series was a bad matchup for Maxey to be going off night in and night out because of Mikal Bridges. That's where this series you needed PG having a bench and Embiid to go off.
How about one night Maxey goes off?
Here's the thing, John.
How about 2 quarters? He goes off.
John, I understand what you're saying. I'm not resolving from that. What I'm saying is, for a series, this is what you get when you have an undersized guard.
But he didn't go off at all. He didn't show up at all.
No, John. My point to you is, this is what happens when you're relying on an undersized guard. You're going to have these roles. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's his fault or not his fault. What I'm saying is, if he's your undersized guard, you're going to have a problem with an undersized guard going off against an elite defender in a series. It's just basic common sense.
You go off at some point in the series. He shows up and does something in the series.
John, I'm not saying you're wrong. What I'm saying is that's the problem. He's an undersized guard.
Ant-Man's not expecting Maxey to go off. Thanks for the call.
The thing is, he doesn't even have to go off. Contribute. He doesn't have to go off. He doesn't have to take over a game.
That's why he had the comments he had after
Game 3.
Where he says, I did what I thought or what I had to do. I have 2 guys on me. I'm gonna pass it off. But again, if we're talking, the thing, I'm not even all that mad at Maxey. The thing that I'm continuously pointing out, and I've been saying it for 2 years now, for everybody that wants to build around Maxey, I get it. He's very, very talented.
He is talented.
I don't believe that Tyrese Maxey can be the guy that carries you through a series. It's kind of like what I say about Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts can definitely carry you in a game or two. I've literally seen it in 2 of the biggest moments, NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl. Really freaking good. But I don't think he can be like the guy for 18 weeks. The year they won the Super Bowl, what did they do for 16 of the 18 weeks in the regular season? They ran the football, right? Like, they had to run the ball. It's okay. Very good players can have limitations, right? Joel Embiid's a very good player. His limitation is his freaking body. Like, there are limitations. But when people say build around Maxey, no, he needs to be a part of it. He can't be the guy.
You see it with Tyrese, though. He can do no wrong.
People love Tyrese.
They love Tyrese. After that series, the defensive Tyrese should not be there.
No, I don't believe it.
Now, I agree with some of the callers' points. Absolutely. That it's not as good a matchup as the Boston series was. But you've got to do something in that series. You have to contribute something where you're not just an afterthought. You're a max contract player, and you were nothing in that series. Sorry if that hurts the feelings. If you had a Maxey jersey or a poster, I'm sorry. I'm going to tell you like it is. That was pathetic. That was a pathetic series performance. Bad.
They arrived to the arena yesterday.
They did. I'm glad they picked their outfits, too. That took a lot of thought.
Now, let's forget about the outfit, shall we?
No, I put a lot of thought into it.
I don't think that had anything to do
I'm
with
glad.
the
No, I'm glad they're very concerned.
Everybody gets stressed, John.
I'm glad.
I almost didn't.
I'm glad
Coming
you
up
did.
next. Jim Jackson, voice of the Flyers for NBC Sports Philadelphia. Flyers also got swept, but man, we're singing a different tune for them. But we talk about the Flyers season as a whole. Coming up next with JJ. You're on the Fanatic.
Kane and Sal Chunas, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
It is 8:30 here on Kincaid and Sal Chunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. As you can imagine, we've been talking Sixers for the most part this morning after just such a lackluster show up. I don't even want to say effort. I don't want to say performance. They arrived at the arena yesterday. That's the most I could say about the Sixers team yesterday. Game 4 of their series against the Knicks, already down 3-0. They arrived at the arena, and they are down 19 after the first quarter. They lose by 30. But we also had the Flyers. Their season came to an end, and it's amazing, John, because both teams got swept in the second round. But we are singing a totally different tune with the Flyers because it's the beginning of something special, we hope, for many years.
Well, I believe it is, and none of the Flyers' messaging, too, has been, we've accomplished anything other than this is the beginning. And I love that. There's a lot of work to be done, and I'm thinking the shortcuts are not going to be taken. And I love that. So I'm excited. I'm very excited. And the fan base showed the other night. They're excited, too. They handled it really, really well the other night.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, joining us now here on Kincaid and Sal Chunas, the voice of the Philadelphia Flyers for NBC Sports Philadelphia. Obviously did not get a chance to hear him after round 1. Our man Jim Jackson joins us. Jim, good morning.
How are you guys?
We're doing good.
We've been better. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, look, we watched both winter teams get swept in the second round, but, as we were saying before we brought you on, we're singing a bit of a different tune for the Flyers because we're proud that they got there, right? Which is not something I could say about the other team in the Xfinity Mobile Arena. So your takeaways from the second round for the Flyers as this is still the beginning of what is hopefully a long run for this organization.
Yeah, no doubt. I've been doing a lot of these interviews, and as you guys mentioned, I didn't call the second round, so I'm doing more of these than usual, and that's been the messaging even at the beginning of the series, that no matter what happened in this series, it had been a tremendous year for the Flyers. And a lot of people say it was just the run down the stretch, but when you really look at the whole season, the Flyers were really a solid team through the first half of the year. They were 6th in the NHL in points percentage on January the 6th. They had a bad month, and it was a really bad month in January, and it almost cost them a playoff spot. But then they came back out of the Olympic break, and they were again one of the top 5 or 6 teams in the league. In fact, the top team in the league from mid-March to the end of the year by points percentage. So they really played well for a long stretch this year. Then they knock off their top rival in the playoffs, which doesn't get much sweeter than that, before running into a buzzsaw in the Carolina Hurricanes. But you saw all of what the management team of Dan Hilferty and Keith Jones, Danny Briere, now Rick Tocchet are doing in terms of the young talent. Some of the young veterans taking steps, then the young talent that was added to the mix, the Martones and Bumps and Barkeys and the like, and there's more on the way. There's draft capital, there's salary cap space. So you can see where this is going, and the fans, obviously, you guys mentioned, see that as well. You will not see, I don't think the Flyers will even see this again. You won't see many teams in Philadelphia, the teams that play series at least, basketball, baseball, and hockey, get swept and get an ovation like they got there. That is probably a one-time thing, but it showed you that the fans are on board for what's going on with this team and the rebuild. I'm not sure we turn that anymore because they're adding to the mix now, and they started adding last offseason, and they will continue to, and it's exciting.
Jim, your connections are obviously very, very strong in the organization as far as getting a pulse of knowing what's going on. From some conversations I've had, I believe they are not going to look at this offseason, though, as, okay, based on winning a playoff series, now let's take a couple shortcuts and push all of our chips to the center of the table. What is your gut instinct on what kind of an offseason this potentially could be?
I think it's steady as she goes. I mean, Danny Briere from day one has stayed on point to what he said he would do when he took over as general manager, and that is look at the long-term objective. The long-term objective of this management team is, and always has been, and I think will continue to be, to build this team into one of those clubs, 5 or 6, maybe 7 teams that almost every year for a long stretch of time is considered not just a contender for the playoffs, but a contender for the Stanley Cup. Colorado comes to mind, Tampa Bay over these last several years, Vegas. There's 5 or 6 of them that almost every year over almost a decade stretch now are considered contenders for the Cup. The Flyers, that's what they're building towards. But you don't get to that by going for quick fixes. And they haven't at any point diverted from that. I mean, in the early stages, it was subtraction. And trade Sean Walker 2 years ago when the Flyers were in a playoff spot, and he's a very good defenseman. He showed in this series. He played very well for Carolina. Now that he's a Hurricane. That cost the Flyers probably a playoff spot. I mean, that and Carter Hart leaving and some of the injuries they had on defense. And, they collapsed down the stretch, missed the playoffs that year. But the goal remained not making the playoffs that year. It was about the long-term objective that I just mentioned. So that's where they're at. But now, of course, they're at a further stage, and the fact that they've made the playoffs, it's not about subtraction as much as it is adding to what they have here, because they know they have some really good pieces in place. They're not by any means complete, and they have to make some serious improvements if they want to get to the stage where they're consistent Stanley Cup contenders. But if they make a couple of additions in this offseason, I wouldn't be surprised if some of those prognosticators come September in the fall aren't saying, hey, the Flyers might be one of the contenders for the Stanley Cup. But that's not to say they're going to go out and trade all their draft picks and all their young players for some mid-30-year-old star. That's not where they're at all. So I think you can relax if you think that's, if anybody thinks they're going to do that. I think it's more looking to add. I mean, Danny Briere, by the way, on an aside, does deserve some consideration for GM of the Year in the NHL. I mean, if you think about the addition of Zegras, the addition of Vladar, the addition of Dvorak, and then under the radar additions of guys like Grunstrom and Glendening during the season, which they basically gave away nothing for, and then played some smaller roles on the team. I mean, he had a heck of a year. I mean, those first 3, those guys were all vital to this team making the playoffs and advancing around. So he had a great year. If he has another offseason like that, who knows what happens next year? But they're not to the point where they can start just taking all of their young assets and dealing them for veteran players like they have just one piece away from a Stanley Cup champion. They aren't quite there yet, but they're moving in that direction.
Jim, Vladar aside, because we all know how a hot goaltender can really carry a team, what's something on the ice that the Flyers can continue to build off of that you're most excited about?
Well, it really is the foundation that started with John Tortorella. I mean, the foundation of there's just no give up in this team. They are a very resilient group, a very tight group. Now, you hear about this in a lot of sports teams, but it's really true with this group, and you saw it. They had one of the best records in the NHL after losses this year. They constantly bounce back. When they were counted out, that's when they got to their best, the 3.8% and all that. So they're a really – so that's a great foundation to build on in a general sense. From an on-the-ice standpoint, they're a solid defensive team. They don't give up a ton of shots. Obviously, against Carolina, it's a little different. Carolina fires from everywhere. They are an anomaly that way. They're just a team that checks differently than anybody else in the NHL. But against most teams, the Flyers didn't give up a ton of shots. They were right there at the top of the league in the fewest shots allowed per game. So they built a good defensive foundation. So they want to continue to build on that because I do believe come playoff time, a defensive foundation wins over just a run and gun kind of team. So that helps as well. So those are 2 really good foundational pieces. They have to add offense. They have to get the power play straightened out. I mean, we've been talking about that for a long time, but they do have a lot of really good pieces in place. And the big thing, though, I think, is what I talked about originally, is just that foundation of belief and their tight group, and that carried them a long way this year.
I would say either someone who can handle the puck at the point on the power play, number 1 in your shopping list. It is on mine.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm asked that a lot, or have been here over the last 36 hours. I immediately go to say a 1C, because that's what everybody says about the Flyers. They need a number 1 center, an elite number 1 center. What team doesn't? There aren't that many of them. And that's the number 1 thing you think of right away. And that might be a key to the power play as well. But in general, whatever gets the power play going is what I'm for. If it is the guy at the point, it would be nice to have a guy at the point that can really fire the puck. They don't really have that big shot at the point. Ristolainen has a hard shot, but that hasn't been like the forte of his career and getting it off quickly and all that. I mean, they really need a guy who can bomb from the point because a lot of power play goals, yeah, sure, you have your share of really tic-tac-toe goals, but a lot of power play goals come from that initial shot, which causes chaos around the crease and gets the penalty killers off their game, and then you can set up plays or just get rebounds and tips. And they don't really have that. So if they get that guy who orchestrates from out there at the point, hopefully he has a big shot as well, because that would help. David Juracek, one of the guys they picked up at a trade, has that big shot. There's other areas of his game that obviously need work, but he came in as a very high pick, so he's got a lot of talent. He might be part of the answer there. Maybe there's somebody that externally they have their eyes on, but that would certainly help. But they do have to get that. There's no question. I'm not saying they have to have the top-ranked power play in the league, but they can't be 32nd, which they've been, for the last 5 years, 3 of the last 4 years. They were third from the bottom. You just can't be there and win a Stanley Cup, I don't think. So they know that. They're well aware that they've got to find some way to unlock what has been a mystery here of late here in Philadelphia in terms of the power play.
Jim, well, it was a lot of fun listening to you all season long on NBC Sports Philadelphia. And again, it's a shame with the way the NHL works that we couldn't hear you in the second round, but you'll be back at it next year, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of excitement going into the 26-27 season for the Philadelphia Flyers. We appreciate the time today.
Always fun, guys, and what you guys are talking about with the fans was the most fun of this whole thing. The reaction at the end of the game the other day or the night was just tremendous, and all during the rush to the playoffs themselves, and then the very end, the fans. It was nostalgic for me. It brought me back to when Orange Crush was an annual occurrence, and I think we're getting close to that being the case again.
That's awesome. Thanks, Jim. We appreciate it.
Take care, guys.
Is Jim Jackson from NBC Sports Philadelphia. All right, coming up next, more of your reaction. More people not wanting to be critical of Tyrese Maxey.
Well, that's big.
But an article from our man Tony Jones, who we spoke to all season long, about what could happen in the coming days with the Sixers front office.
And he will join us tomorrow as well.
All right.
So we'll get further breakdown, too.
Well,
that's good.
Tell you what he wrote about in his article this morning, because there might be change coming, as there should be. It's Kincaid and Salchunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Kincaid and Salchunas, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
There's a little blurb on the week ahead for the Philadelphia 76ers and what ownership decides to do. We'll get to that in a second, but a lot of people want to react to yesterday's debacle. Really the series debacle, but yesterday in particular, the Sixers didn't even show up. They're down 19 at the end of the first quarter. They lose by 30. First time in NBA history where a team lost by 30 points in the playoffs 4 different times. It's amazing that they played in 2 rounds. Think about that for a second. They played in 2 rounds and got crushed 4 different times. Let's go to Big Russ in North Carolina. What's up, Russ?
Hey, what's going on, gentlemen? Can you hear me?
Yep, yeah, we can hear you, Russ. What's up, buddy?
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, everyone. Hey, let me first preface this by saying you guys are right. There's no one on the Philadelphia Sixers organization that is excused from what happened in this series. No one, not even Maxey, right? But we have to be reasonable, fellas. We have to be reasonable in the fact that there has never been a point guard, especially in what's this for Maxey, 6 or whatever it may be. There has never been a point guard to carry a team against a better inferior team than New York was. Against Boston, yes, he did his thing. He helped. Even when Joel was out, he did his thing in helping carry the team. And the fact of the matter is, Boston doesn't have an interior big set guy or anybody, or even from a perimeter standpoint, defenders that can stick with him. Mm-hmm. New York is a different monster. Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart. We're asking Maxey to produce against a team like that. Now, could he have stepped up more? Absolutely. But to ask him to carry this team against a team like New York, which is a better team than Boston overall, and a deeper bench, it's unrealistic, guys. And I'm just saying, it's just unrealistic.
Well, and that's why I've been saying the same thing for years. He's not the guy that you can say we have to build around Maxey. Maxey's got to be a piece because of his size.
People were talking about this last Monday.
Yeah.
People were talking about the Knicks being this insurmountable challenge for the Sixers? Because I did this show, and that was not the conversation.
Yeah, and I agree with you. John. You're right.
So now it's all revisionist. It's all revisionist history that now the Knicks are this mountain that the Sixers just weren't built to climb. That wasn't what people were saying last week. Now, Andrew and I both didn't pick the Sixers to win the series.
I picked Sixers in 6.
Oh, you did say Sixers?
I thought there was momentum.
I took Knicks in 6.
Yeah, and I agree with you guys. I didn't pick them either, even though I'm a diehard fan. New York is a better team. Look, they have Cat in the middle. They have Robinson, which is a good athletic big, and they have great guards on the perimeter, right? But that team, our team is not built. Daryl Morey has done our team an injustice in how he has built this team. And you guys are right. We cannot win with Embiid. I've been saying this for years. We cannot win with Embiid. Paul George has spurts for a veteran getting paid what he's getting paid. We needed Paul George, not only in the Boston series, but even in this series, to step up more than he has. Did he step up a little bit more? Yes. But come on, we can't ask Maxey, right? Even though he's a max player, but we still got Joel and we got PG, veteran players that should have produced and given us a
Russ,
lot more.
my big thing with the Maxey talk, and thanks for the call, brother. We appreciate it. Like I hear what you're saying. My biggest talk, it feels like there are a lot of times we don't criticize Maxey. Because we love him, and he's got a great smile and a great attitude about him. And sometimes I do feel like Tyrese Maxey's left off the hook. I wasn't asking him to drop 30 in the 4 games that they played in this series every single night. But he looked overmatched at times in this series. And again, my point that I've been making for years, Johnny, with or without Embiid, the build around Maxey. It's Maxey's team. That's not going to win you anything. I'm sorry. If they make the decision today to trade Joel Embiid and trade Paul George, and it's going to be the Tyrese Maxey show, you're not winning anything. Now you're not winning anything now, right? Like you're not. They're not winning anything with this team. They're not going. They just got swept by the Knicks in 4 games. They're not winning anything now. But the point I've been trying to make for 2 years for all the people that are always looking for what's next. You want to build around Tyrese Maxey and you want it to be the Maxey show. Look, that Allen Iverson run that we saw, there's a reason why it's still talked about across the NBA and not just here in Philadelphia. It was so improbable because nobody expected that.
And he was dragging that team.
Yeah, Tyrese Maxey's not doing that.
No.
There's too much size in the NBA. It's not like Mikal Bridges, the way the NBA works nowadays, you can have a 6'7" guy guarding a point guard or a guard, because I refuse to call Tyrese Maxey a point guard. They weren't doing that back then. Like, it was very traditional. One covers 1, 2 covers 2, 3 covers 3, 4 covers 4, 5 covers 5. Yeah, it's different now.
I think the disagreement that I'm going to have is what the definition of build around Maxey is, because that feels like we're at a different place with that. Like, Jalen Brunson is the focal point of that Knicks team, but they have done a great job of building that team around him to mitigate what he does not do well. Like, I think Tyrese Maxey could be the focal point, but he can't be the only guy. To me, that's still building around him, but it's just not he's the solo one.
I don't think that's unfair.
But you know,
I understand what you're saying.
I'm telling you now, each round, Jalen Brunson will be the guy for the New York Knicks.
I don't think Maxey can't be that. Like, if you put Maxey on the Knicks, you think they're losing?
Well, no, not with that roster. Probably
not with that.
So it's possible.
Yeah, but I don't see Maxey being Jalen Brunson.
Oh, I can absolutely see him being that.
I don't.
There are games.
I've seen Jalen Brunson.
I've seen,
and I see a different player. I see a different player. And I don't think that Maxey in any way is a bad player. He had a terrible series.
Yeah,
this series was a little too big for him, a little too much, and that shocks me.
So
that shocks me.
Tony Jones, who we're going to talk to tomorrow from the Athletic, covers the Sixers. We've been talking to him all season long. Here's a blurb from his article this morning. The jobs of Morey and head coach Nick Nurse are expected to be evaluated entering the offseason, multiple league sources told The Athletic. As of Sunday's elimination, team sources said ownership has not made final decisions on either and is likely to take a few days to assess before making any major calls.
And did you also see what else he had to say, too?
What else did he have to say?
The locker room was not happy about Jared McCain exiting the franchise. They were not happy. and it was very poorly received amongst the team. They didn't like it, and it was kept more in-house. They weren't happy.
Yeah.
And so all the people who say, gosh, Jared McCain, you're making a big deal out of it. Yeah, the players know what Jared McCain was and what could be, and they were pissed that he was gone. They're pissed. And that doesn't go well. So we'll see.
Yep, we'll see.
How it all goes.
Well, what can they do this offseason? We told you the article from Tim Bontemps on ESPN that made it seem like it's going to be pretty hard to trade Joel Embiid if you want to. Pretty hard to trade Paul George if you want to. What does Bobby Marks have to think about? Remember, Bobby Marks is like a capologist.
Oh, yes.
He'll be able to break down what the Sixers can do, but also if there's any teams out there that want either of those two players. We get into that next with him, 905, 97.5 The Fanatic.